Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a massive stack of notes today.
Oh, yeah. It feels heavy just holding it, honestly.
It really does, because today we're not just talking about a television episode. We are dissecting what I'd call a philosophical pivot point in modern media.
Right.
We are looking at the exact moment where Breaking Bad stopped being, a quirky story about a high school chemistry teacher making drugs.
And became a full-blown Greek tragedy.
Exactly, a tragedy about the sheer cost of violence.
That is honestly the perfect way to frame it. We are diving deep into Season 3, Episode 12. The title is Half Measures.
Half measures.
Yeah. And if you look at the entire 5-season run of the show, I really think you can divide the whole timeline into two distinct eras. Before Half Measures and after Half Measures.
It's the Rubicon.
It absolutely is.
It's the point of no return. Once the credits roll on this one, nothing is the same.
Everything changes. Everything.
So let's ground ourselves here before we get too carried away. Our source material today is the comprehensive history and analysis of this specific episode.
Mostly anchored by its Wikipedia entry.
Right, but we've also expanded this with critical essays, production notes, and audience reception data from the time.
Just to give you all a complete picture of what this hour of television actually achieved.
So for context, we are looking at the 32nd episode of the series overall. It originally aired on AMC on June 6, 2010.
Which puts it right near the end of Season 3. It's the penultimate episode of the season.
And the tension at this point in the show is just, it's suffocating.
Oh, it's unbearable. If you remember where we are in the story right now, the walls are closing in on these characters from literally every side.
Yeah, you've got the cartel pushing in.
You've got the DEA getting closer.
And the internal strife between the main characters. It's all reaching a boiling point.
And the central theme we're going to be wrestling with today is right there in the title, Half Measures.
Which, it sounds like a corporate strategy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like something you'd hear in a boardroom meeting.
Right, like they're discussing quarterly projections or something.
Exactly. But in the context of the Albuquerque underworld, it's a life or death doctrine.
It's the idea that hesitation or mercy or trying to find a middle ground in a world of extremes doesn't just fail.
It gets people killed.
Yes. It is a fundamental argument against compromise.
And the players on the board for this argument are our core quartet. You have Walter White, the chemist.
Jesse Pinkman, who is really the soul of the show.
Gus Fring, the completely corporate face of evil.
And Mike Ehrmantraut,
Yeah.
the man who brings this whole philosophy crashing down on their heads.
It's such a fascinating mix of personalities when you put them all in one narrative pressure cooker.
You have the pragmatist in Walt,
The emotional moralist in Jesse.
the cold calculator in Gus.
And the weary, cynical veteran in Mike. And this episode serves as the collision chamber for all of those conflicting worldviews.
So let's get into the machinery of it all. Let's start with Section 1, the setup and the schemes.
Because before we get to the gunfire and the chaos, we have to look at the chess moves.
We really do. And strangely enough, the first aggressive move, or at least the most strategic move regarding their operation, doesn't come from a drug lord.
No, it doesn't.
It comes from Skylar White.
This is such an overlooked part of this episode. I think because of how incredibly violent the ending is, people tend to forget the domestic side of things in Half Measures.
Yeah, the explosion at the end kind of blinds you to the slow burn at the beginning.
Exactly. But Skylar's arc here is vital. Up until now, she's been arguably a victim of Walt's choices.
Or at least a very reluctant participant who has been dragging her feet.
Right. But here, she is taking the wheel on the money laundering.
The notes mention she's heavily pushing the car wash plan. Now let's unpack this for a second. Because Saul Goodman, the criminal lawyer, he already had a plan.
The laser tag place.
Right. He had the laser tag place lined up. It was easy. It was clean. Danny, the laser tag guy, would play ball.
It was a turnkey operation for laundering drug money.
Exactly. So why fight for the car wash? Why does Skylar insist on making it more difficult?
Because it's about narrative control. Skylar isn't just trying to wash the money. She is trying to wash their history. Think about what the car wash represents to Walter White.
It was his place of absolute humiliation.
Exactly. Go back to the pilot episode. He's a genius chemist, but he's working there part-time just to make ends meet for his family.
He's wiping down the tires of a Corvette owned by one of his own high school students.
A student who actively disrespects him while he's doing it. The car wash is the ultimate symbol of his emasculation and his financial struggle.
So by buying it?
By buying it, she's flipping the script on their own lives. It's not just a pragmatic business decision, it's a psychological reclamation project.
Wow. Yeah, she wants to take the very site of his lowest point and turn it into the engine of their future wealth.
It's poetic, really, in a very twisted, pragmatic way.
It really shows that Skylar isn't just a passive wife anymore. She's becoming a full partner in this enterprise.
She's analyzing the story they have to sell to the IRS. She's thinking about what the neighbors will believe.
Because a laser tag place makes 0 sense for a 50-something high school chemistry teacher.
Right. But a car wash, that's believable. He worked there. He knows the business. It tracks.
It shows she's actually better at the cover story aspect of the criminal enterprise than Walt is.
Walt wants the easy route with Saul. He just wants the problem solved.
But Skylar wants the airtight route, the one that stands up to an audit. She is making herself indispensable.
She really is. But while Skylar is playing SimCity with the finances and dealing with the logistics of their success, Jesse Pinkman is doing something much, much more dangerous.
He's playing detective out in the streets.
And Jesse is a terrible detective because he leads entirely with his heart, not his head.
He isn't out there gathering intel for business leverage.
No, he's gathering intel for revenge. He's investigating the street dealers who killed his friend.
Combo Ortega. We have to remember how fresh that wound is.
Very fresh. Combo wasn't just some low-level employee to Jesse. He was one of his day ones. They grew up together.
And Jesse is out on the streets using sex workers like Wendy. We have Julia Meschi guest starring there to help him figure out who is dealing on that specific corner.
And he finds the smoking gun. He manages to buy blue meth from this specific gang.
Which tells him what exactly? Why is the blue meth the key piece of evidence here?
It confirms the entire supply chain. If these specific street-level thugs are selling the blue stuff, which is Walt and Jesse's exclusive signature product, they aren't competitors.
They're employees.
Exactly. They work for the same distribution network.
Which leads directly to Gus Fring.
Precisely. It means the people who murdered Combo are on the exact same payroll as Jesse and Walt. It's a closed loop.
Jesse realizes he is essentially colleagues with his best friend's murderers.
That's the nightmare realization. You're sitting in the metaphorical break room with the guys who shot your friend.
But it gets even darker, because the source material highlights a very specific ethical line these dealers are crossing.
They're using kids. Specifically, they are using an 11-year-old boy named Tomás Cantillo.
Played by Angelo Martinez.
Yeah.
And just 11 years old. That is, even for Breaking Bad, that is incredibly bleak.
It is. And we have to really understand Jesse's character to get why this pushes him over the edge.
Because Jesse is fine with crime, generally speaking.
Right. He can deal with drugs, he can deal with theft, he can even deal with violence between consenting adults in the game. But he has always had this fierce, unwavering, protective instinct toward children.
We saw it with the Peekaboo episode earlier in the series.
Exactly. It's his defining, redeeming quality. It's the thing that keeps you rooting for him despite all the terrible things he does.
So seeing little Tomás riding a bike, slinging meth, and knowing this actual child probably pulled the trigger on Combo.
It breaks him. It completely violates his core code.
So he goes to Walt. He has a plan.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, it's not a let's talk to HR plan.
No, not at all. He asks Walt to cook up some ricin.
The ricin returns. The magic beans.
The silent killer. Jesse wants to poison these dealers. He wants revenge, but he wants to be smart about it. Or at least what he thinks is smart.
He figures poison is cleaner than getting into a shootout on the street.
But look at Walt's reaction in this scene. The notes say Walt appears troubled by the use of children.
Troubled. That is such a weak word for that situation.
I know, troubled.
It feels like Walt is looking at a spreadsheet error, not a massive human rights violation. He sees the child soldier issue as a PR problem or a logistical hurdle.
Whereas Jesse sees it as a moral emergency.
That's the fundamental disconnect between them, and it's what drives the tension of this entire episode.
Walt is operating entirely on logic, business preservation, and self-interest. He tells Jesse, "You're being rash. You're going to blow up our incredibly lucrative deal with Fring."
He's compartmentalizing the horror.
Completely. He thinks if he just ignores the child on the corner, the millions of dollars keep flowing into his duffel bags.
But Jesse can't compartmentalize. He feels everything. So he gives Walt an ultimatum. He looks him in the eye and says, "I'm doing it with or without you."
Which is terrifying because we know Jesse. He's not a hitman. He's an emotional wreck half the time. If he goes after these guys alone, these are two hardened professional street enforcers, he's dead.
And Walt knows that. He knows Jesse is signing his own death warrant. Which leads us directly into Section 2, the intervention.
Because Walt realizes he can't talk Jesse down. Logic hasn't worked. Pleading hasn't worked. So he decides he has to force him down.
He goes to Saul Goodman.
The fixer. The man with the Rolodex of highly questionable solutions.
And they hatch a scheme to get Jesse arrested.
Yes.
Wait, let's stop and explain that logic to me again, because it sounds absolutely insane. You're a criminal mastermind, and your brilliant plan to save your partner is to call the cops on him.
They view it as a timeout, a state-sponsored timeout.
Like sending a kid to his room.
Exactly. They figure if Jesse is sitting in county lockup for a few days on some minor, trumped-up charge like possession or disturbing the peace, he physically cannot go out and kill the dealers.
He cools off behind bars. The dealers move on. Problem solved.
It's incredibly patronizing.
It is completely patronizing. It's Walt acting like the father who knows best, treating Jesse like a toddler having a tantrum at a grocery store.
He thinks he can just put Jesse in the corner until he behaves, but it shows how dangerously little Walt actually understands the criminal world he's operating in.
Because in this world, secrets don't stay secret. And being in the system is a massive liability.
Enter Mike Ehrmantraut.
The man who hears everything. The man who cleans up all the messes Walt makes.
Mike shows up at Walt's house, unannounced.
I love the way Mike enters scenes in this show. He doesn't knock. He's just suddenly there, sitting in a chair in the shadows.
It's terrifying, and the dynamic shifts immediately. Usually Mike is the cleaner. He's the gruff employee. But here, he steps firmly into the role of the mentor, or the senior partner dictating terms.
He drops the veil, right? Up until now, Mike has been fairly ambiguous. But here he admits he works directly for Gus.
He cuts right through the pretense. There was always this plausible deniability about who Mike really answered to, Saul's guy, Gus's guy, but here he says it plainly.
And he tells Walt, very clearly, do not have Jesse arrested.
Because if Jesse gets into the system, if his fingerprints get booked, Gus will take it as a problem.
I just love the euphemisms in this show. Take it as a problem. It sounds so bureaucratic, like a zoning dispute.
We know what it means. It means we will kill him, and we will probably kill you too.
Gus Fring runs a tight ship. He values anonymity and security above literally everything else.
A loose cannon, like Jesse in jail, potentially looking at a plea deal to avoid prison time, potentially talking to the DEA because he's emotional, that is a liability Gus will not tolerate for a single second.
So Walt's clever little plan to jail Jesse is dead on arrival.
Dead in the water.
He's completely out of options. He can't talk Jesse down. And now he knows he can't lock him up without getting him murdered by Gus.
And this is where Mike sits him down.
This is the moment. The deep dive core of the episode. The monologue.
It's iconic. Jonathan Banks delivers this story that just sucks all the oxygen out of the room. He tells Walt about his days as a beat cop in Philadelphia.
Right. Because before he was a fixer, before he was a cartel hitman, he was a police officer.
And this backstory is so crucial because it finally explains who Mike really is. He isn't just a mindless thug. He's a man with a very strict code formed by years of seeing the absolute worst of humanity.
He talks about a domestic violence call. A repeat offender.
Yeah, an alcoholic husband who routinely beats his wife. Mike says he would go there, break it up, and the wife would refuse to press charges.
Which is tragically a very common reality in these cases.
It is, and the cycle would just repeat. Mike felt completely helpless. He was the law, but the law was useless. It wasn't working.
It's that classic police frustration. You can see the train wreck coming from a mile away, but the procedure stops you from actually preventing it.
You have to wait for the major crime to happen before you can act, until one night.
Right. One night, Mike snaps.
He takes the guy out to the middle of nowhere, in the police cruiser. It's raining, it's dark. He puts his service weapon right in the guy's mouth.
He steps completely outside the law.
He steps outside the law to enforce his own version of justice. He has the power right there in that moment to end the cycle, to save the woman permanently.
He has the full measure in his hand.
But he doesn't pull the trigger. He hesitates. He thinks to himself, maybe I scared him enough. Maybe having a gun in his mouth is the wake-up call he needs.
He chooses mercy.
He chooses the half measure.
And the result of that mercy.
2 weeks later, the husband beats the wife to death, caved her head in with a television set.
God, it's so visceral. Just the image of that detail, a television set.
It is the defining trauma of Mike's life. You can hear the regret dripping from his voice when he tells it. He realized that his mercy wasn't a virtue, it was a weakness.
It was a strategic error that cost an innocent person their life.
He learned the hard way that if you leave a threat breathing, it will inevitably come back to destroy the exact thing you're trying to protect.
So he finishes the story looks Walt dead in the eye, and delivers the line that defines the rest of the series.
No more half measures, Walter.
It chills me every time I hear it. But let's really analyze that advice, because it's a terrifying lesson, isn't it?
It is. He's basically telling a mild-mannered high school chemistry teacher, the next time you have a problem, you need to murder it.
He's applying the brutal logic of a war zone to their meth business. But there's a subtext here that we really need to dig into. Who is the abusive husband in this metaphor right now?
It's Jesse.
Exactly. Jesse is the problem that's coming back. Jesse is the erratic element that refuses to listen to reason.
When Mike tells this story, he is implicitly telling Walt that trying to save Jesse, trying to jail him, reason with him, protect him, is a half measure.
That's the really dark interpretation of the scene. Mike isn't telling Walt to help Jesse go full measure on the street dealers. He's telling Walt to go full measure on Jesse.
That is certainly how I hear it. He's saying, cut the dead weight before it drags you both under. He's suggesting that Walt needs to eliminate the problem, and the problem is his partner.
But Walt interprets it differently. Or maybe he just rejects the target Mike is painting. He absolutely refuses to give up on Jesse. Let's move to Section 3, the summit.
Because Jesse is still moving forward with his plan, he tries the ricin.
The poison burger strategy. He gets Wendy to deliver burgers to the dealers, and he plants the ricin inside them. It's so desperate, it's clumsy.
It really feels like something a kid would come up with. I'll just poison their lunch.
It does. And of course, it completely fails. The dealers aren't even at their usual spot.
Because Mike is always watching.
Mike and Victor Gus's terrifying enforcer, played brilliantly by Jeremiah Bitsui. They intercept Jesse before he can do anything.
And they drag him to a sit-down. This scene is incredible just from a cinematic standpoint. The power dynamics are perfectly mapped out. It's a masterclass in blocking and tension by the director, Adam Bernstein.
Set the scene for us. Where are they and who is there?
They're in this remote meeting spot. It looks like a trailer or an office out at the chicken farm. And you have Gus Fring, the CEO, sitting calmly at the head of the table.
You have Walt, the middle management, looking incredibly anxious.
You have Jesse, the rogue employee, looking like a caged animal ready to explode.
And you have the street contractors, the two dealers, looking like absolute stone-cold killers.
That tension is just palpable. Gus is mediating a deadly dispute between his top chemists and his street enforcers.
It's corporate conflict resolution, cartel style. So what's the verdict? How does Gus handle it?
Gus acts the part of the benevolent dictator. He listens to both sides. He hears Jesse's grievance about the use of the 11-year-old child, and he turns to the dealers and orders them. No more children.
Which, on the surface, feels like a massive win. Jesse got exactly what he wanted. He stood up to the biggest boss in the region and forced a policy change.
It really seems that way. Gus forces them all to shake hands to seal the deal, and this moment, the handshake, is crucial.
Jesse is furious. You can see the physical repulsion in Aaron Paul's performance. He hates shaking hands with child killers. It makes him physically sick.
But he does it. He agrees to keep the peace.
And Walt actually thinks it's over. On the drive home, Walt is trying to spin this as a massive victory. He's bubbling with relief. He's telling Jesse, see, we won. Great job, partner. We threaded the needle.
And Jesse just stares out the passenger window. The silence in that car is deafening.
Walt thinks this was a tense business negotiation that closed successfully. Jesse thinks he just sold his soul.
Why? Because by shaking their hands, Jesse has become complicit.
Yeah.
He sat at a table with monsters, negotiated with them, and treated them like valid colleagues. He realizes that Walt is totally okay with that.
Walt can stomach the moral compromise as long as he stays alive.
But Jesse cannot. It highlights the massive fracture in their relationship. Walt is pragmatic to a fault. Jesse is deeply moralistic, even in this criminal underworld.
And that fragility, that fake peace, shatters immediately in Section 4, the breaking point.
Because you can't make deals with people who murder kids. You can't rely on the honor of sociopaths.
No. The tragedy happens that very same night. The dealers adhere to the strict letter of Gus's law, but definitely not the spirit. Gus said, no more children.
So they fired the kid?
They fired him in the gang sense of the word. They eliminated the loose end. Little Tomás Quintillo was found dead on a playground.
It's the ultimate monkey's paw situation. Jesse made a wish, no more kids in the game. And the wish was granted in the most horrific way imaginable.
To the dealers, the kid was just a liability who knew too much about their operation. If they aren't allowed to use him to sell drugs anymore, they just delete him.
It's cold, brutal, terrifying efficiency.
And this exact moment is where Jesse Pinkman ends. The kid he used to be is gone.
Andrea Tomás's sister, played by Emily Rios, who is also Jesse's girlfriend at this point, she is devastated.
She and her other younger brother, Brock, played by Ian Posada, they're just destroyed.
Jesse rushes to the crime scene, and the guilt that washes over him must be completely unbearable.
Because he knows that his demand to Gus to stop using kids is the direct, proximate cause of this boy's execution.
He tried to save the boy, and his action triggered the boy's murder. That is a literal Greek tragedy. It's Oedipus realizing he's the one who brought the plague to the city.
It destroys him emotionally.
Yeah.
The very next day, he doesn't show up to the super lab.
Walt is down there cooking alone, constantly looking at the clock, getting more and more worried. Because Jesse is just gone.
But where is he?
He's sitting in his car, in broad daylight, watching the dealers on their corner. And he's holding a glass pipe.
He breaks his sobriety.
He snorts meth. And this is a detail we really need to linger on because it is so incredibly significant.
He hasn't touched the stuff since he went to rehab at the end of season 2.
Right. He's been trying so hard to play the part of the bad guy while staying clean. But in this moment, the emotional pain is just too much to bear.
Why does he do it right then? Is it just to numb the guilt?
It's definitely numbness, yes. But it's also psychological preparation. He knows he is about to commit suicide.
That's exactly what it is. It's a suicide mission.
He has a gun, sure, but he's one skinny guy against two hardened killers who are standing on their own turf, expecting trouble.
He's high, he's shaking, he's an emotional wreck.
He knows he isn't walking away from this confrontation. He just wants to take them with him to hell. He's checking out. The meth is him officially letting go of any hope for survival.
Which brings us to section 5, the climax. This sequence, even reading the notes, my heart rate goes up. It is one of the most masterfully edited sequences in television history.
It really is. And it starts with a stark, brilliant contrast. You have Walt at home.
Domestic bliss.
Yeah. He's wearing the soft beige sweater, the ultimate uniform of the harmless, boring suburban dad. He's sitting at the dinner table with Skylar and his son, Walt Jr.
And then the local news report comes on the TV in the background. Body of an 11-year-old boy found murdered.
And you see the calculation happen in Walt's eyes. Bryan Cranston is so good here. He doesn't wonder who that is. He doesn't wonder if it's related to his business. He connects the dots immediately.
He puts down his fork. The realization hits him in 2 waves. First, Jesse's gonna kill them.
And then the secondary, much worse realization, Jesse's going to fail and Jesse's gonna die.
And Walt moves. There is no hesitation this time. No, let's call Saul and figure out a scheme. No, let's ask Mike what to do. He just gets up and goes.
He grabs his keys and leaves. Skylar asks where he's going, and he doesn't even have time to invent a good lie. He just walks out the door.
Cut back to the street. It's nighttime now. Jesse is walking slowly toward the dealers.
It's shot like a classic Western showdown, but completely distorted. Michael Slovis, the cinematographer, lights it so beautifully. The dealers see Jesse coming.
And they aren't scared at all. They look almost bored by him. They calmly reach for their waistbands to draw their weapons.
Jesse raises his gun, but his hand is trembling uncontrollably. He's crying, he's high, he's an absolute mess.
He's hopelessly outgunned. They are going to drop him before he even gets a clear shot off. We are actively watching Jesse Pinkman about to be murdered.
And then you hear the roar of an engine. Walt's horribly ugly Pontiac Aztek screams into the frame out of nowhere. It's moving like a tank, and he plows directly into the 2 dealers at full speed.
The sound design in that moment is incredible. It's not a standard Hollywood thud.
No, it sounds sickening.
It sounds like metal crushing bone and meat. It is deeply jarring.
It's horrifying to watch. The car just crashes right over them. One dealer flies up over the hood and into the air. The other goes violently under the wheels.
The car smashes into a wall and stops. Smoke is hissing everywhere. The horn is blaring continuously because the airbag deployed and Walt is pressed against it.
And then there's silence. Just for a split second, the dust is settling.
Then Walt violently kicks his door open. He scrambles out of the wrecked car. He's limping slightly from the impact. He looks around.
The one dealer is dead on impact, broken on the street. The other one, the one who went under the car, he's broken too. His legs are completely crushed, but he's alive. And he's trying to crawl toward his dropped gun.
And this is the moment. This is the true no half measures moment of the entire series.
Walt sees the gun. He sees the wounded dealer. He doesn't call 911. He doesn't grab Jesse and drive away to hide. He walks over calmly.
He picks up the bleeding dealer's gun.
He picks it up. He doesn't say a single word. He just points it directly at the man's head and pulls the trigger. Bang!
A point-blank execution.
It's cold. It's precise. It is easily the most violent, deliberate thing Walter White has done with his own two hands up to this exact point in the series.
Think about the progression of his character. He killed Crazy 8 back in season 1, but he cried about it. He agonized over it. He strangled him in self-defense, essentially.
Right, and he watched Jane die in season 2, but that was an act of omission. That was inaction.
But this is active, predatory, completely unhesitating violence.
This is an execution. He identified a threat, and he eliminated the threat completely.
And what is Jesse doing during this?
Jesse is just standing there, frozen in shock. His own gun is dangling from his finger. He's staring at Mr. White like he's looking at an alien creature.
He simply cannot process what his eyes are seeing. His nerdy high school chemistry teacher just ran over 2 armed cartel enforcers and executed one in the middle of the street.
And Walt turns, looks directly at Jesse, and delivers the single most important word in their entire relationship.
Run.
Run. It chills me every time. Run.
It's a command. It's a father saving a son. But it's also a general realizing that a massive war has just started.
Exactly. That there is no going back to the super lab tomorrow morning. There is no clever lie or excuse that covers this up. They just straight up murdered Gus Fring's trusted men.
This is what I meant at the very beginning about the philosophical pivot of the show. Walt actually took Mike's advice.
He did. Mike said no half measures.
But Mike meant get rid of Jesse. He meant Jesse is the liability. Walt inverted that entirely. He applied the no half-measure philosophy to protect Jesse. He went all the way to save him.
It's a complete perversion of the advice Mike intended, but it's undeniably effective. He saved Jesse's life, but in doing so, he damned them both. He crossed the line from a drug manufacturer trying to stay under the radar to a gangster initiating a cartel war.
Let's take a breath and look at Section 6, the production and reception of this episode. Because when this aired in 2010, people absolutely lost their minds.
Oh, universally acclaimed. It wasn't just considered good TV, it was an event.
The IGN review gave it a 9.7 out of 10. That is near perfect in their scoring system.
They described it as fun, creative, well-directed, well-acted, and they specifically noted that it set up an awesome finale, which obviously it did.
And the retrospective rankings really reflect that enduring quality. The Ringer ranked it 15th out of all 62 episodes of the series.
And Vulture had it at 18th overall.
Which is saying something. Because when you consider that masterpieces like Ozymandias and Crawlspace exist, cracking the top 20 of Breaking Bad episodes is a huge accomplishment.
It stands the test of time because, as we've said, it's the hinge point of the entire narrative.
We also really have to talk about Aaron Paul.
Yes, Jesse Pinkman himself.
He won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, specifically for his performance in this episode.
And when you break down the episode, you can completely see why. It wasn't just one flashy scene that won him the award. It was the incredible emotional range he had to display.
Yeah, he had to show the righteous, burning anger over Combo in the beginning. Then the heartbreak and absolute devastation over Tomás.
And finally, that drug-addled, suicidal desperation at the end on the street.
The scene in the car where he's smoking the meth, the look in his eyes where you literally see the light just go out, that's Emmy material right there.
He perfectly conveyed a man who had already accepted that he was a ghost.
It's a total masterclass in acting without words.
Okay.
And we have to give immense credit to the crew as well. Adam Bernstein directed this episode.
He did a phenomenal job.
The visual language he used, the heavy shadows in the negotiation meeting with Gus, the chaotic, violent framing of the final car crash. It's brilliant.
And the writing by Sam Catlin and Peter Gould. They managed to take a standard 47-minute episode of television and make it feel like a massive feature-length thriller.
Even the guest stars brought their A-game. Jeremiah Bitsui as Victor. He barely says a word, but his physical presence is just terrifying.
And the kids. Putting child actors in a storyline this incredibly dark is a massive risk for a showrunner, but it completely paid off. Ian Posada as Brock and Angela Martinez as Tomás.
It really grounded the stakes. It reminded the audience that this isn't a cool, glamorous video game. Drug dealing kills actual kids.
That's the harsh reality Half Measures forces us to look at. It stripped away all the slick glamour of the blue meth empire and showed us the true human cost.
So as we move into the outro, let's wrap this up. What is the final blast radius of this episode?
The impact is total. Before this episode, Walt and Jesse were just employees. High-paid employees, but employees nonetheless. They were trying to keep their heads down and make money.
After this, they are active insurgents. They are at open war with their powerful boss.
It perfectly sets the stage for season 4, which is basically a brutal 13-episode chess match between Walter White and Gus Fring.
And it all starts right here.
Hmm.
All because Walt refused to take a half measure.
But here's the takeaway I really want to leave you with. As an audience, we view this final scene as Walt saving Jesse.
Right. It feels incredibly heroic in the moment. The tension builds, the Aztec crashes in, the bad guys die. We sit on our couches and we cheer for Walt.
But I want to challenge that feeling for a second. Let's complicate that heroic narrative.
Go for it.
Was it really loyalty? Was he really just the brave teacher saving his surrogate's son? Or, and hear me out, was this the exact moment Walter White finally found a valid excuse to be who he really wanted to be all along?
You think he actually wanted the violence?
I think Mike gave him a permission slip. When Mike sat in his living room and said no more half measures, he inadvertently gave Walt the moral framework to stop pretending he was a good guy trapped in a bad situation.
Wow. He used Mike's advice to unleash the monster.
Exactly. He didn't just run over the dealer to save Jesse. He picked up that gun and executed the survivor because he could. Because he was finally done being the victim in his own life.
That is a deeply disturbing thought.
Yeah.
That maybe he wasn't saving Jesse at all. Maybe he was just feeding Heisenberg.
He saw an opportunity to exercise ultimate power, the power over life and death. And he took it without a second of hesitation.
And if that's true, then Mike's story backfired in the worst possible way imaginable.
It's the ultimate law of unintended consequences. Mike thought he was training a cautious soldier, but he was actually awakening a ruthless kingpin.
Well, on that cheerful and terrifying note, that is all the time we have for this deep dive.
It's been a heavy one today, for sure.
Run. That really is the word of the day. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Take care, everyone.
And remember, no half measures.